So what we got going on here in general is this night scene game where you're this ball, and mainly it's truly simple game here where you're just trying to run away from the cops, but at the same time you're going to try to activate the switch, which would then in turn end the game and go in at that instant with a different losing scenario at the same time. Now, what I will go into first is the player character, and one of the things I did here is I just simply straight up changed the entire mesh of the character entirely to just a simple sphere, and by using calculations to change the view of the ball in game mode. And this also initiates every frame, gets the player velocity, and uses that to set it to a variable, along with other calculations over here. It also uses rotation amount to set the rotation of that sphere in order to get that look. So as we move, the entire thing updates for every tick, but especially we would set the variable when we stand still. I have also implemented a double jump into this matter, as described here. If you press it once while in the air, you can do a double jump, but you cannot press more than two times up in the air, so you can't jump 3 times. I have just implemented this simple. I mainly just edited the main jump function in order to compare the jump counter to the max jump counter and pass it off for each function based on what value it is. Also to set the visibility of the jump effect, which I have here for a plane right here, and also what I have used for a modified material that deals with radial circles and timelines in this material, which will be visible whenever you do that jump, which we see here. You can also change the view of the scene by using the means of the scroll wheel. And what that does in turn, what causes that to happen, is by means of just simply changing the camera location on the z-axis, as noted here. Simply just 2 functions back to back in order to get those 2 types of movement there. The next thing I want to talk about is the enemies. The enemies in this game are hiding behind these lights, hiding behind these other scenarios, and they will chase you to no end until they hurt you to the death or you just get hit. Based off novelty's sake, I also model and UV extra hat in order to get feel in for the scenery and the environment of the level. And whenever the player approaches their perimeter, which is an extra box I put around them in order to sense the player, it would constantly loop back and forth to move to a random location based off a radius that has already been made and falls into the direction of the player based inside that radius. And they don't seem to stop chasing because the radius is apparently large enough to be between the player and them, and the player cannot outrun the radius that's been made at the same time. So they will just outrun. They will just keep chasing you until you either get hit or you win the level. And as you can see here, there is a patrol box. For whenever the player collides with that patrol box, the event will start for the AI to chase the player. There is also a way you can win the game, which is to get on top of the switches and activate the winning sequence of the game. As said here we see that ragdoll physics has been implemented, as well as an explosion effect and impulse at location. All that can be described in this scenario here. The hat gets destroyed, as well as a separate function being told here, with impulse manipulation, effect spawning, and it also repeats the effect. But also beforehand, it would set every one of the enemies based on their instances to turn into ragdoll and to no longer act upon AI. So as we see here, the delay and the loop would just have the exploding the exploding action repeat on end until it quits the game. Whenever the player collides with the enemy in this scenario, they were to get hit, as in getting hurt by the enemy, which we will see here. If I were to get hit by it bit by bit, it would launch that sequence to decrement the health variable, which is all you also see over on the screen, as well as playing the hit sound, and we'll play the death sound at death, as well as turn into a destructible mesh and crumble with the enemies to roam around. With the chasing player event not functioning as well, this event will also be active for whenever they're set off, but they don't have anything to follow anymore. They will just roam to a spot because they don't know what to look for. As shown here, if I were to get hit to the point where I would die, they would be simply moving to different locations. The HUD of the level also has two scenarios, the gameplay section and the winning section. As you can tell here, the health will update based upon being hit. We were to get into one of such things here. This will update as the variable, which would in turn place it in front of the basic word value that I've placed over here. And I would simply do everything off of a Boolean, which would in turn disappear everything from the gameplay HUD to the win HUD, which would occur when the player eventually wins. There is also some materials and scenery that I have created here in order to put in a feel of the city, which I will now display. So you can tell it's not a very complicated process. I just simply change values. So the metallic, specular, and roughness, simply got the base color, normal mapping, and done both of them off of a texture coordinate, which is supposed to be scaling off the image. And it repeats. And the same process is done for both the road and the walls as well. Last thing I want to talk about in this overview is the pause menu, which I have implemented by just simply pressing the tab. Each button does a specific function based on pressed. As you can see here, if we were to go to an event, right here, if we were to press tab, it would simply resume the game bar to press that. This would play the hit sound, this would play the depth sound, just based off of testing reasons, and this would quit the game if we were to press the fourth button. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.